What's up, guys? It is Dustin here. We just finished UFC 303, the rematch between Alex Poaton Periera versus Jiri Prochazka. And man, what a card. Let's just dive right into it because this was an exciting card, top to bottom. Couple of duds here and there, but we'll get into that. But starting off, the main event, how could you not talk about this? Alex Pereira goes out there and makes it look absolutely easy against Jiri Prochazka. Outstruck him, knocked him down, literally as the horn went in the first round there. As the horn went off to signify the end of the round, drops Prochazka with the left hook. Beginning of the second round starts, 5 seconds in, immediately drops him again with a head kick. A switch head kick from the orthodox stance, drops him, finishes off with ground and pound. Jiri was obviously rocked, got up, and was falling all over the place. Obviously not the way Jiri wanted to go out, but man, Alex Pereira made that look absolutely easy. I can't think of another fighter that is just basically headhunting these guys. Like, look at the resume that he has now. Prochazka twice, Jamal Hill, Jan Blachowicz, Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland. He has beaten a total of 5 former champions in a span of 6 fights. This is unheard of. This man is absolutely going out there and just decimating people. His rise in the UFC, he turns 37, which he's a little bit outside of his prime, and the fact that he's still able to pull off this crazy shit. He's been in the UFC for not even a full 3 years yet, and he's held belts in 2 different divisions. He's defended the light heavyweight belt twice now, when over the last couple years, no one has been able to defend the light heavyweight belt since Jan Blachowicz. And his defense was against Israel Adesanya, and then immediately loses that belt to Glover Teixeira shortly thereafter. But, man, it was just one-way traffic pretty much. I know it may have not looked like it, but just look at these numbers. Total strikes for Pereira between basically 5 minutes and 15 seconds, 49 strikes to Prochazka's 7. 38 of those strikes were significant. 2 knockdowns. If you look at these numbers, it was one-way traffic. Alex Pereira absolutely ran over Jiri Prochazka. The power was just way too much. Maybe with a full camp between these two, maybe it's slightly different, but even then, both of them are coming off of the same timeline. They both fought on UFC 300. They both had the same amount of time to prepare. Jiri got the call while he's in a shack doing a 3-day fast, no water, no food, no light. Alex Pereira's on the other side of the world in Australia when he gets the call. There's really no excuse. It's not like one had more time than the other. Not like Alex was already in camp. Whoever he was fighting pulled out. Then Prochazka stepped in. They literally had the same timeline. And Pereira looked noticeably better as far as his takedown defense, his just overall balance. Never threw a shot to where he was leaning one way to the other or anything like that. He just looked crisp and clean, and all of his shots were meant to cause damage. No wasted movements, just pure striking finesse. He looked absolutely amazing. I don't think there's anybody else at light heavyweight that can really pose a threat to him. I know we still have Ankalaev waiting out there in the midst, but after watching this and what he did to Jamal Hill, I'm not sure what Ankalaev could offer Pereira besides the wrestling. And with how much he's progressing over these last couple of years, I think he fucking walks through Ankalaev. I don't even think that's really an argument. We'll see what happens with Blades and Aspinall, and then I think I saw somewhere where Jones and Miocic are scheduled again to fight in November at Madison Square Garden. So if I was a betting man, Aspinall beats Blades, Jones beats Miocic, Jones retires, Aspinall's promoted to undisputed heavyweight champ. Then you have Pereira versus Aspinall for the heavyweight title. First person in UFC history to go for 3 belts in 3 different weight classes. It is absolutely unheard of. The amount of the resume he is able to build in the short amount of time since coming to the UFC in 2021 is insane. From going to knocking out Michailidis to then defending the light heavyweight belt twice, which is notoriously a belt that is very difficult to defend unless your name is John Jones. This is crazy. What he is doing is completely unheard of, especially coming over for another sport that he dominated as well, too. I know he had some losses sprinkled in there when he was younger. Even then, what he is doing is absolutely insane, and you should just be grateful that you are watching history right now. He will go down into the UFC Hall of Fame. He is a bona fide legend already, even in the short amount of time he has been here, and I'm grateful that I get to watch this man compete. It is an absolute treat that we get to witness this. Also, co-main event, this is weird. So, Dan Ige takes on Diego Lopez. We know that originally it was supposed to be Brian Ortega takes on Diego Lopez. Brian Ortega pulls out of the fight this morning with a fever. They called Danny Ige on 4 hours' notice, and Danny Ige lives in Vegas, so all he had to do is just get in the car and drive to the arena, weigh in at a catch weight of 165. Lopez was walking around 160, 161, so they were both under 165. Went in there. Diego definitely won the first 2 rounds. Ige, you could argue that he won the 3rd round. The fact that he was able to go out there and do that in the 3rd round and just put it on Lopez the way that he did on 4 hours' notice makes me question how well he would do in a full fight camp. But then in turn, Diego Lopez was coming in on short notice to take on Brian Ortega when the previous co-main event fell out. So this card is just weird top to bottom. First, it was supposed to be Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree. Khalil Roundtree gets pulled. Jamal Hill versus Carlos Ulberg. Jamal Hill gets pulled. Anthony Smith versus Carlos Ulberg. Carlos Ulberg gets pulled. Then they just do Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze, which is what we'll get to. And then somehow we end up with Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. I mean, what an insane turn of events. And that fight did deliver, even though it was on extremely short notice. I think that might have been the shortest notice fight in UFC history. Because, I mean, like, name another fight that literally 4 hours notice. I don't think there's, I'm maybe 24 hours notice, maybe something like that. 4 hours notice where earlier that morning you were just at your house, woke up, maybe hung out with your family, and then you get a call around lunchtime like, hey, we need you to drive to the arena and fight. It's absolutely crazy. That's a BMF right there. That's literally anytime, anywhere, anybody. And Dan Ige signifies that. In a good win for Diego Lopez, I mean, obviously the circumstances weren't in either of these guys' favor, but what they were able to display in these circumstances deserves commendation in and of itself. But moving on here, like I stated, Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze. Dolidze coming in on short notice, going up to light heavyweight, taking on Anthony Smith. It is kind of a weird fight. Like, the first round, somewhat even, gave it to Dolidze. And then after that, it just kind of was just Dolidze the rest of the time. I mean, even the numbers show that. 103 total strikes to 51 total strikes. 1 takedown, which was in the second round for Dolidze. Out of those 103 strikes, 100 of them were registered as significant. So, I mean, yeah, Dolidze basically ran him over. I feel like, from what I heard in the broadcast, they've trained together, so they are friendly. They know each other, so I don't think there was really a whole lot of killer instinct going on there, because there was that one moment Dolidze kind of did almost his version of the Ali shuffle, and all Anthony Smith did was smile, laugh, and kick his leg. Even DC said it during the broadcast. He's like, I would have punched him in the face, which I agree. I mean, you're getting paid to fight. Go out there and fight. Weird fight. Nothing really of significance to talk about. This was an interesting one. I did not see this coming, but Macy Chiasson defeats Mayra Bueno Silva via TKO by doctor stoppage in the second round. Now, we look at these numbers here. Even the full fight, I mean, 53 total strikes for Silva, 64 for Chiasson, 1 takedown for Chiasson, 46 of those significant strikes for Bueno Silva, 50 for Chiasson. So significant strikes, almost even. But what really was the end of the fight here is that Chiasson was in Silva's guard, trying to move, posted up, landed a nasty elbow across basically right above the eyebrow, and they let the fight continue while it was on the ground until Silva got up. And as soon as Silva got up, the ref stepped in and paused the action, had the doctor take a look. When that camera got onto the cut and you could see how deep it was, I knew that they were going to stop the fight, which I agreed with because that was a nasty, nasty cut. She was bleeding so aggressively. The cut was so not even just wide, but deep as well, too. I think I even heard I was at a house party watching it. I think from what I heard is that they saw it was down to the bone, which, you land an elbow like that at the perfect angle with the perfect amount of pressure, that's going to happen. And I think that was the right move, was to stop that, because she's going to need multiple stitches, if not staples. So good for Chasson. I've never really thought of her as a threat to that division, but you just take out the number 3 contender like that, you're going to be moving up in the ranks. Do I think she's a world title contender? Probably, because that division is extremely shallow. Do I think she's a champion? Absolutely not. But who knows? Crazier shit has happened. Moving on to the first fight of the main card, Ian Gary defeats Michael Venom Page by unanimous decision here. This is definitely played out in a way how I thought it would. Somewhat uneventful. There were some moments from MVP where he was able to tag Gary on the feet with some really fast right hands and whatnot. But overall, it was kind of a grappling fest by Gary, which, hey, if you're fighting a guy like MVP and he's that dynamic on the feet, I don't blame you if you're going to go to the grappling. Even in the first round, I thought he had a rear naked synced in pretty tightly, but MVP was able to defend, survive until the end of the round there, go on into the second round, third round, so on and so forth. But, the numbers here, 65 total strikes for Gary, 52 for MVP, 2 takedowns for Gary, 2 submission attempts, 19 significant strikes to MVP's 21. The numbers here definitely lean towards Gary. I think the right guy won. Joe Pyfer killed a guy. Joe Pyfer gets back in the win column after absolutely starching Marc-Andre Barriault with a first round KO in 1 minute and 25 seconds. Throws an overhand right, kind of stuns him, and then swarms him. And as Barriault is kind of falling to the ground, hits him with just a nasty right shovel punch is what I would call it, and puts him out face first into the canvas. Joe Pyfer, even though he did not perform very well in his last fight against Jack Hermanson, he is still a problem for that division. I would say matchup considering. If you put him in there with anybody who's willing to swang and bang, you can expect to get knocked out. I would like to see how he does against a guy like Chris Curtis or even like there's a bunch of guys in that division. Maybe even like a Marvin Vittoria. Let's see if we can test Marvin's chin. I know that sounds kind of mean, saying like, hey, let's see if this guy can knock out Marvin Vittoria. Jared Cannonier couldn't, and he set the record in the middleweight division for most significant strikes landed. But that's a testament to not only Joe Pyfer putting up against a guy that's that highly ranked, a former title challenger, but also saying like, hey, that's also a testament to Marvin Vittoria's chin. Let's see how well that holds up, and let's see if Joe Pyfer can get it done. Now, this fight, I did think the judges got it completely wrong. Sorry, my light is flickering like crazy. Andre Fili defeats Cub Swanson via split decision, which I did not agree with. I gave Cub Swanson the second and third round. First round was definitely Andre Fili's, but overall, we look at the numbers. You had 90 total strikes for Cub Swanson to 70 total strikes for Andre Fili. Andre Fili did have 2 takedowns, but even the significant strikes, 62 out of the 90 total strikes that Cub landed were significant. 67 were, I'm having a brain fart. Fili's, yes. Jesus Christ. Were Fili's significant strikes out of the 70. So, pretty much all but 3 strikes that Fili threw were labeled as significant strikes. And, these guys were trying to take each other's heads off. They were throwing with power shots. You could definitely know. You could see that in the fight. They were swanging and banging. But I personally thought in the moment Cub won. Looking at these numbers, I can see based off the takedowns and how close the numbers were as far as significant strikes. Total strikes, 20 strike differential. I'm not mad at the decision. I just thought Cub won the fight. Now, this is an outcome I did not see happening. Charles Jourdain gets knocked out with a right uppercut by Jean Silva in the second round. And I've always known Charles Jourdain as being a gritty fighter, having a great chin. He's never been finished. And Jean Silva, I know he did miss weight, so there is a little bit of an asterisk there. But this dude is a problem. Even in the fight itself, it didn't look like it was close, really. Like, we look at the... Oh, Jesus Christ. What just happened? Hold on. In the fight, it didn't look necessarily like close. We'll look at the numbers here to get a better idea. But overall, I thought Jean Silva was winning. Yeah, look at this. 35 strikes, total strikes for Jean Silva, 24 for Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain did land 3 takedowns, but out of those 35 strikes Jean Silva threw, 34 of them were registered significant, with 2 knockdowns. I know this is a finish, so why are we looking at the numbers? I'm just saying the lead up in the first round and somewhat into the second. I thought this was definitely going to be a lot more competitive, but the numbers even showed here too. Jean Silva just kind of ran him over a little bit. Yeah, that was crazy. What was even crazier was Peyton Talbot getting a 19-second, so under 20-second first-round KO against Giannis Gamori. I don't think Gamori even landed a strike in this fight. Let me just double-check to see. Holy shit, yeah. So 13 total strikes for Peyton Talbot, 1 for Gamori. And out of those 13 strikes, they were significant. You know why? Because every punch, he landed the jab and then a 2. Dropped them. The rest was all ground and pound. 1 knockdown registered. Peyton Talbot is a legit prospect. I am very hyped about this kid. Say what you want about his antics, his personality, whatever. I find it kind of refreshing to see a striker of this caliber who's so smooth and just refined not be a complete fucking meathead and is just kind of like chill. Like, that's the kind of dude I would like grab a beer with and just be like, oh, yo, what up, bro? He seems super cool and just calm and collected, which translates into his fighting style. I want to see him against Yanez. I know he called out Yanez. Yanez, Rob Font, any of those guys, give him. The feature fight on the early prelims, Jillian Robertson absolutely ran over Michelle Waterson-Gomez. Yeah, that fight was not close whatever at all. Jillian Robertson, 122 total strikes to Michelle Waterson's 41. Jillian Robertson landed 2 takedowns to Michelle Waterson's 1. Had 2 submission attempts. Significant strikes for Robertson was 77. She absolutely beat the shit out of Michelle Waterson-Gomez. It wasn't even close. And unfortunately, I'm glad to see that she's in a place where she feels like, hey, I can call it a career. But Michelle Waterson did retire tonight, especially after this beating and the beating she took by Marina Rodriguez. It's time to hang it up. You're getting long in the tooth there. You got a daughter. You got a family. Let's move on. Congrats on a great career. The package, though, that they played, I'm like, I kind of agreed with MMA Guru there a little bit. I was like, yeah, this isn't like Robbie Lawler had the same exact package put together. Michelle Waterson ain't the Robbie Lawler of women's flyweight or strawweight, but whatever. Kudos to her. Andre Arlovsky versus Martin Buday. Cut them both. Andre Arlovsky's 45. Martin Buday is just terrible. So you can just cut both of them. Ray Tesora defeats Carlos Hernandez via unanimous decision. I honestly thought we were going to see a submission in this fight. There were so many just points in that fight where I was like, yeah, this could be over. They have 0 submission attempts registered. I think that's just a credit to Carlos Hernandez being aware of what's going on and being able to escape right in the nick of time before there could actually be a submission put onto him. But one-way traffic, Tesora 62 strikes to 26, 3 takedowns to 1, 17 significant strikes to 16. That's kind of close, but that's because whenever he got him down, he held him down and as I always say when people are watching fights and they're like, bro, why isn't he choking him? Position over submission. That's what he was doing. Position over submission, which for a young guy like that to know, good on him. And your very first fight of the night, which I'm kind of like, why was this the very first fight of the night? But whatever. Ricky Simón loses a unanimous decision to Vinicius Oliveira. That was definitely Vinicius' fight. It was weird at one point, though. Vinicius throws a leg kick from the conventional stance, which is orthodox, so your right leg back, throws a leg kick with his right leg, and Ricky Simón checks it perfectly. Oliveira goes a step back, can't put weight on it, hurt it, round ends. The corner is icing his left leg, the wrong leg. Then the doctors come in and are like, can you stand on it? And he's like, yeah, I can stand on it. I'm putting weight on it. And he's stomping his left leg, which I'm like, did the corner ice the wrong leg on purpose to confuse the doctors into letting him compete in case they thought he was deemed unable to continue? Or is his corner just stupid? Because obviously it was obvious that it was his right leg, which makes me lean towards the fact that his corner was just pulling some Jedi mind tricks there, trying to confuse the commission, which, hey, assalamu alaikum. That's just good cornering. That's solid work there. But Vinicius Oliveira is good, man. I mean, 96 total strikes to 44 for Ricky Simón. Ricky Simón did land 2 takedowns, but didn't last long when they were on the ground. But those total strikes, 96 of them, were all significant. I mean, Vinicius Oliveira is fun to watch. He is must-see TV. He is just a fighter's fighter, just goes out there and just tries to take your head off. Honestly, this card, the main card, I mean, Anthony Smith and Mayra Bueno Silva. And so basically the first 3 fights on the main card, Gary, Silva, and then Anthony Smith, were not great. They were lackluster. They were a little bit boring. Danny, Diego Lopez, Poaton, and Prochazka definitely saved the main card. But these prelims, Pfeiffer, Swanson, Silva, Talbot, they put on a show. I mean, performance bonuses for Talbot, performance bonus obviously for Poaton, performance bonus for Pfeiffer, fight of the night for Feely and Swanson, all well deserved. And whenever you see multiple performance bonuses and fight of the nights given out, you can usually tell that it's been a pretty good card. But honestly, I want to see Pereira up at heavyweight so bad, please. I mean, more than likely Aspinall is going to beat Blades. More than likely Jones is going to beat Miocic and then retire. Please, Aspinall versus Poaton. Let's make that happen. Ankalaev, sorry. Don't care. You're boring anyways. Hate to say it. All respect to you. You ain't that guy. So that's UFC 303, ladies and gentlemen. Next pay-per-view is 304. Definitely will be doing a video for that as well. But hey, if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you like as well too. Follow me on Twitter at SeeingRedMMA. But as I always say in these, you have yourself a great rest of your day. And until next time, see ya.